Hello, I'm Nathaniel Smith, and this is my first and probably last wrap-up video I'm going to do. Because I generally don't do TBRs, I generally don't do wrap-ups. Because mostly I just do a book review. And the only reason I'm doing a wrap-up this time is because it's over 100 separate stories of fairy tales from Hans Christian Andersen. I don't even think I could review them all. If I even now did make a movie out of it, it would be very long. Very, very long video. So yeah, there's that. Anyways, oh wait, there's one other thing I wanted to show you. I got this mask here. Isn't it awesome? This thing is so cool. Check it out. Say, that is so awesome. I love this mask. Yeah, I'm just gonna wear it for this just one time, mind you, because I don't want Todd in the Shadows to kill me with a butcher knife right in my nose. But yeah, let me just get into these fairy tales. What comes to mind when you hear of fairy tales anyways? Whether it's Hans Christian Andersen or Grimm's Brothers, what comes into your mind when you review a fairy tale? Or even think of a fairy tale? Probably always think of it as, well, you probably think of Disney, don't you? I know I would. I know probably anyone would. But, well, why don't I just read this little piece here? A picture from Rampart. It is autumn. We are standing on a rampart and look out on the sea. We see the many ships in the Swedish coast on the other side of the sound, which in the light of the sinking sun rise high above the surface of the sea. Behind us is the wood, limits our view. Stately trees surround us, and the yellow leaves flutter down from the branches. Below, at the foot of the rampart, stand gloomy buildings, surrounded by high walls. Within it is a very narrow and dismal, but it is much more dismal beyond that grating in this wall. There sit the prisoners, the worst criminals. A ray of sinking sun enters the bare cell of one of these prisoners. The sun shines upon the good, the good and the evil. A sullen, stubborn culprit throws a glance of disgust on the cold ray. A little bird flies toward the grating. The little bird chirps to the unjust as well as to the just. It utters nothing more than a short twit-twit, sits down on the wall, beats with its wings, and plucks a feather out of one of them, puffs itself up, makes the feathers on its neck and breast rise, and the wicked man on the chain looks at it. His hardened face assumes a milder expression. A thought rises in his breast which he cannot himself explain. But this thought is connected with the sunbeam and the fragrance of the violets, which in the spring grew plentifully along the wall. Now the bugles of the hunters sound sweet and full. The little bird flies away, frightened. The sunbeam gradually vanishes and becomes dark again in the cell, dark in the wicked man's heart. But the sun has shined into it. The little bird has chirped into it. Continue to sound, ye bugles of the hunters. Continue to sound, the evening is mild, and the sea gently rocks its smooth surface. Yeah, that isn't what you expect when you hear of a fairy tale, is it? In fact, this is what I found out mostly about Hans Christian Andersen. There's not the things you would expect, like tongues being cut out of your mouth, heads being chopped off, mothers contemplating the death of their children, drowning. These are things you wouldn't expect to see in a fairy tale. Things that are dark and dramatic and generally depressing. And yet they are here. Even with the inanimate objects like the steadfast tin soldier, they get burned up. Burned to a crisp. And I don't mean that in a good way. True. And more than that, there's even a lot of faith put into it. Like, A Leaf from Heaven is literally about a leaf from heaven. And then there's another story about paradise, aka the Garden of Eve. Or Eden, the Garden of Eden. And all manner of stories of many different types. Heck, there's even a story about a Jewish girl. Yeah, it's all over the place. Of every different type. Happy endings, tragic endings. Some of the stories are romances, some of them aren't. The thing about a fairy tale, at least from what I can grasp of it, is it not necessarily need a happy ending. It doesn't necessarily need to be about inanimate objects, nor does it necessarily need to be about people in love. It just needs to have some sort of weird visual thing. Like, there's one of these stories called Under the Willow Tree. Where is it? I know it's somewhere around here. There it is, Under the Willow Tree. And this story is definitely one... Wait, no, it wasn't Under the Willow Tree, it was the other one. Damn it. Hold on. A Cheerful Temper. One other thing you'll find interesting about these fairy tales is they tend to have a lot of death in them. And I mean a lot of death. Not just people dying at the end, but even other people death. Like, go and read Hans Christian Andersen's A Cheerful Temper, and try not to be somewhat discomforted by it. It's just impressive, really. The imagination. They got these nice paintings of art here, if you can see it. And there's a little death for you. They're awesome. And I would strongly suggest you really, really read the fairy tales, because for the most part, they're nothing like you would think they would be. Especially since there's, only one type notice, Seriously, how does Todd in the Shadows wear a mask the whole time without itching? It's a good question, wouldn't you say? Hey guys, so, great stories, good art. The Little Elder Tree Mother. This one, I think if even I reread this, I would still be confused by it. It's such a weird story, you can say the least. Not bad, just complicated to understand. Most of them are easy to understand, though, don't worry. Most of the stories of these fairy tales are very easy to understand where they're coming from. The descriptions are impressive, the stories themselves are awesome, and some of them are quite fun. Like, the Flying Trunk. That's a fun little story. Okay, it sort of has a slightly sad ending, because the man never got the woman he loved, but it's still a good story with the flying trunk and just what takes place there. It's fun. and it's just really good. Of course, some of these stories you at least know somewhat of, heard of, like The Little Mermaid or The Snow Queen. Oh, The Snow Queen, what a great story. Isn't that a great picture to see in the fairy tales? Right there, isn't it? So I suppose the best way to look at it is simply fairy tales aren't what you expect them to be. If you think they're these lighthearted, shying away from what is real life, dark moments in real life, because that's not really the case. A lot of these stories do have dark endings to them, and some of them, although they're dark endings, they're not even with death involved. And some of the dark endings are even with inanimate objects like toys and so forth. So you see a lot of the metaphor. All in all, Hans Christian Andersen is an awesome writer. He makes great fairy tales, and boy, is it difficult to make even a wrap up on it. It's just so vast. It's everywhere. There's even a story about tombstones that's titled The Old Tombstone. Right then. Thyme, green thyme, come out, we sing. Soon will come the gentle spring. Ye willow trees, your catkins don. The sun shines bright and days roll on. Cuckoo and lark sing merrily too. We also will sing cuckoo, cuckoo. With that, I end this video. Yeah, it's awesome. It's great. Ooh, should show you at least the, that's the outer cover of it. Just going green. And yeah. Oh, one other thing. The story of the ugly ducklings in here. You do know most of it, but I don't think you realize there's actual section where the ugly duckling runs across a bunch of hunters and you see him kill a few animals, birds in it. Yeah, I don't think anyone knows that. Well, I'm done. Goodbye.